The Florida Gators should have no problem taking care of the USF Bulls on Saturday.
You are Locked On Gators, your daily podcast on the Florida Gators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Gators, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. Every day we are available daily and free, wherever listen to the podcast and on YouTube. Happy Thursday. I'm Brandon Olsen. Find me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with New York Giants on SI and swampsignal.substack.com, where we broke down Bryce Lovett's film yesterday for premium subscribers. Only there is free content there, but there's also some only available to paid subscribers. This episode of Locked On Gators is brought to you by Mazda. Just like there's more to every player, more dedication, more attention to detail, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Stay tuned later in the episode for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward. Mazda, move and be moved. And today we're talking about the Florida Gators matchup this Saturday against the USF Bulls. And I look at the USF as Tennessee Lite. If that makes sense. Alex Golesh is the head coach at USF. He was formerly the offensive coordinator at Tennessee under Josh Heupel. Their offense is very stylistically similar. Not surprising, right? Like no one should be shocked about that one. Their offense is very much that veer and shoot that you see, the Bryles spread, whatever people want to call it. That's what it is. I personally don't care what you call it. I usually call it the Bryles spread. But again, people can call it whatever they want to call it, where the offense is built on, we're going to spread it out as far as we can with with receiver splits. They're going to be basically on the sideline, regardless of where we are lined up on the hashes or in between the hashes. They're going to go as far as possible to the sideline. And then we are going to probably try to run the football early on. It is very interesting, though. I will say they didn't run the football nearly as much as I thought they were going to run the football, at least against Boise State last week in a game that they won. Alex Golesh, of course, was at Toledo, so I'm gonna give him credit for that. He wasn't there when Matt Campbell was there, so I don't care. But he was at Iowa State when Matt Campbell was there, so I will give him credit for that. Then went to USF and then went to Tennessee. And when Alex Golesh runs an offense, again, very Tennessee style, where we're going to spread you out. And the thing is, we might have, I don't know, we'll say a receiver on the far right side, two receivers stacked up on top of each other on the far left side. And then on the interior, we're going to have our 5 offensive linemen, quarterback in the gun, running back next to the quarterback offset, and tight end in the backfield with us, probably behind the right guard. And that's going to be our setup. That's our offense. That's how we're coming out, lining up and getting ready to attack. And that gives defenses hell, right? We see it all the time. That's one of the things where I call Tennessee's offense a Mickey Mouse offense. USF is very similar to that style, Mickey Mouse style, where it's not sustainable. You are putting your players at disadvantages. We see that in the NFL. You know, quarterbacks from Tennessee don't typically work out, or quarterbacks from that system don't typically work out. Receivers from that system, they're fast, but will you learn how to become a route runner? Jalen Hyatt hasn't yet to this point, although I will give him the credit that he's been dealing with injuries this year. So maybe year 3 would have been the time, but we haven't seen it yet from him. You can look at, Deontay Thornton is this year's fantasy rookie receiver crush from Tennessee, 6'5" and fast as hell, but is he going to know how to play receiver? Remains to be seen, right? And part of that is because offensively as a receiver, a lot of what you were doing is running verticals. Specifically, you see a lot of switch verticals where they try to overlap at the snap and then run and just outrun you that way. You confuse a lot of these college DBs, and that's why it's more effective in college than the NFL. It's also more effective in college than the NFL because you get to abuse splits more often in college than the NFL, because the hashes that difference. Um, and so you see those attacking methods with verticals, and then you run a bunch of screens. So you can't just go, oh, they're going to try to overlap and they're going to try to run pick plays and run vertical, because then if you're playing off, they're just going to throw a screen and you got to come up and tackle them. And corners are typically, stereotypically bad at tackling. They have receivers that are tall and willing to block in that offensive system. I'm not saying USF or Tennessee specifically, but they look for receivers that are tall enough and willing to block. And then they attack you that way. And if you are committing to that passing game, then they're going to run the football. Like, that's what they want to do. They want you to be forced to go defend every blade of grass, where it's not just, okay, we need to defend out wide and in the middle. You need to watch for slants working across the middle, working underneath. You need to watch for all these things. You need to watch for the tight end leaking out, the running back screen game. Like, there's a lot to deal with. And it does put college defenses specifically in really uncomfortable spots really consistently. And it makes it very difficult to defend. USF is going to do a lot of that. What they didn't do a lot of against Boise State last week is run the football, but they also have Byron Brown at quarterback, who Byron Brown is capable of making players miss, capable of running through defenders. Like, he is a great college quarterback for this offense specifically. He's going to make a lot of plays. Okay. So where Tennessee typically has, under Josh Heupel, been the type to go, hey, we're going to spread it out, give it to a running back that can create between the tackles, that can run through contact and create that way. That's not so much how Alex Golesh is getting it done this year. Again, maybe the Boise State game was just an outlier, but I don't think if you were hesitant to run the football against Boise State, that against Florida, that's when you're going to come out to do it. I do think that you're going to still rely on the legs of Byron Brown to get your ground game going, but also using the option game, the RPO. It's a very common part of this game, very common part of this offensive system. And if I'm running the option and we've got you condensed, if you bite and I get going and you don't have a nickel defender, or you don't have someone in between the splits of the receivers and the offensive line, I'm going to have plenty of room to run. And if I've got Byron Brown getting out there running, he's going to be able to make plays with his legs, whether that's making someone miss, fighting for extra yards, whatever it may be. We saw him do it last year against Miami. We saw him do it last week against Boise State. You can see him do it again this weekend against Florida. I'm not saying that I think USF's going to win this game. I think Florida is going to handle them. But I will say that stylistically, this is a team that they're also, like, they're looking for those explosive plays. Whether that's the quarterback run game, whether that's making you go light and just beating you there, whether that's the deep ball, whether that's a screen game where you've got corners that are not willing to tackle. Just, again, general assumption for cornerback in college football. They're built on explosive plays. That's what they're going to look for. That's what they're going to try to get to. That's all that offense is trying to do at every level. That Bryles spread is looking to create consistent big gains. They'll stall out, sure, but they'll also have a drive where it's like, yep, 2 plays, 73 yards and a touchdown. Like, they're looking for those big plays, and they're going to keep trying to get them. I do think that Florida is going to be able to handle that. We'll talk about that later on today. But first, we are going to talk about the South Florida defense that the Florida Gators are going to see this weekend when we get back with Locked On Gators. Hey, Locked On Gators fans, are you still paying full price for gas? Stop leaving money behind. Get real cash back every time you fill up with the free Upside app. Simply download the free Upside app in the App Store or Google Play right now and start earning cash at the pump today. Use our limited time promo code football and get an extra 25 cents back per gallon on your first fill up. You can make up to $300 a year just from buying the gas that you already needed. At first, I thought it was too good to be true, totally legit. Real people are getting paid to make their daily commutes that they were going to make anyway, and you can too. Plus, you can cash out anytime to your bank account, PayPal, or an e-gift card for Amazon and other brands. Don't let this offer drive on by. Download the free Upside app now using my limited time promo code football for a limited time 25-cent per gallon bonus. That's promo code football. Offers vary by user and location. Go to upside.com for terms and conditions. And Mazda crafts cars for those who choose to do more than simply move. They follow what moves every time they drive, and that's what makes Mazda stand out. They go beyond safety, style, and performance to deliver a driving experience that feels alive in every detail. Just like an athlete focuses on every detail, Mazda does the same. From metallic accents to hand stitched to Napa leather, you can feel it the moment that you get behind the wheel. The smooth handling, intuitive controls, and standard all-wheel drive in every crossover SUV. It's the small details that make the big plays, and just like there's more to every player, there's more to every Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. Thanks again for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. Every day, we are available daily and free, whether it's in the podcast and on YouTube. And we're going to talk about this USF defense that I will say one thing that I noticed because the way that I'll usually go through these oftentimes is I'll look at what we're going to see statistically, and then I'll look at what the film says. And when watching USF, or when looking at what statistically says about them, their linebackers and safeties play a lot of snaps. At least they did against Boise State. And again, I don't know if that was a Boise State thing or what that was, but it was an absolute blowout. And so you would think, hey, if you're going to rotate guys, you're going to do it in this game where you're dominating and absolutely annihilating your opponent. And yet they didn't. And that was just a very interesting thing to see from them, where they won the game 34-7. USF was on defense for a total of 87 snaps, and they had their starting linebackers, Jalen Schuler and Mac Harris, both play 80 snaps. In a 27-point blowout, you had your two starting linebackers play 80 of the 87 snaps. You had your starting safety, Taven Ward, play 79 snaps, and you had Fred Gaskin play 72 snaps. That just feels like a lot of snaps played for a blowout. I don't know if that's just me thinking that or maybe overthinking something, but I don't know if that's you saying, hey, we're just going to keep pressure on and keep applying that, or if that's you saying, hey, we don't trust the depth or whatever it may be, or if there's injuries. But that's a lot of snaps played. Or I will also give them the benefit of saying that you were playing on a Thursday night. Might have been a Wednesday night, but you were playing and you knew that you would have, roughly 10 days off in between or 10 days before the next game. And so maybe you were just like, all right, let's just get as many game reps as we can for these guys. Very possible. But if those guys are going to be out there every single play against a Florida offense, that's going to hurt. Like it is. You're just going to take a lot of damage, take a lot of hits there. And Jalen Schuler, tall, lean. I don't know how that's going to work out going up against Jaden Ball, however many times you go against him. So I will say that overall, they're a pretty light defense. It's interesting. They have some guys who it's like, yeah, he's 6'3", 220 and stuff like that. They've got an edge that's like 6'5", 230. Like they've got tall, lean guys, but then they've also got the 6 foot, 280-pound defensive tackle. That is just obviously that's just a stout figure, right? Like that's all that is. And so they're overall a pretty light defense. They've got some guys who, again, low to the ground. You got good mass there. But I feel like that tells you that Florida should handle them physically. That also opens the conversation, though, for the fact that Florida should have handled Long Island better than they did. That Long Island was light, too. I will also say that there's a bit of a difference because Long Island was throwing a bunch of different looks at Florida defensively. Long Island was just being really aggressive and throwing everything they could. Whereas, and when we expected that, again, that was the thing we spoke about before the Long Island game, that Long Island is going to do that. Offensively, they're all about being creative. Defensively, they're all about being creative. And if your shtick is, oh, we're super creative and zany, it's probably because you're bad, right? And so we'll say that. USF against Boise State seemed pretty content to sit in coverage and not be too aggressive last week. I don't know if that was, hey, we're leading, and so let's just not let them get an explosive play and get back into this. I don't know if that was just saying, hey, like they're not having a good time passing the ball, because Boise State struggled to throw the football last week with any sort of consistency. Maddox Madsen finished 25 for 46 passing, and which, by the way, 4.9 yards per attempt. And so I don't know if maybe it was a combination of things like that, or maybe their approach is like, hey, we're going to try to offensively have explosive plays, and then defensively limit explosive plays. And that's going to be a lot of our game plan. So I don't know if that's what it was. I will say that when USF blitzed, it was kind of the Austin Armstrong method, I'll say, just in the sense of when they blitzed, it was pretty, I don't want to say predictable, because I don't think it was very predictable when they were blitzing. But one of my main complaints with Austin Armstrong was that he was this guy known for bringing creative, exotic blitzes. And when he got to Florida, all he did when he blitzed was blitz from the interior. And that's what USF did a good bit of last week, was when they blitzed, it was Mac Harris or Jalen Schuler blitzing from off-ball spots or coming down closer to the line and then rushing that way. And it wasn't really getting super creative with it. And so I'm interested to know there. They also did bring some creepers, some sim pressures. So get used to that. But that's football now. Get over it. I think the issue with Florida is just how often they do it, not that they do it. And so I think that they were a pretty conservative team there. I don't know if they're going to be more aggressive because they're underdogs in this one, but they were pretty conservative there against Boise State. And they also could have just been like, hey, we're just going to keep that one tucked in real close and not show our cards for the Florida game that, again, going to lose most likely, but we're going to take our shots and try to get really creative. They ran their fake punt. That kind of sucked because you ended up blowing out Boise State anyway. And so you could have kept that one tucked too, but doubt they spin the block on that one. And if they do, Florida better be prepared to stop it. But I think that USF's defense was just, it felt like they were just thinking offensively, we want to get explosives. Defensively, we want to limit explosives. And that's it. And that's a fine approach, right? Especially when you're playing in that group of 5 level. But when you are the underdog, things change, right? When you're the underdog, you get more aggressive. You're like, all right, well, we got to risk it, right? We're the underdog for a reason. Usually that's a good indicator that, hey, that team might have more talent than us. And so we're not going to win by consistently chipping away. We got to go out there and just get what we can and get it big and get it quick. And so I'm interested to know if they're going to get more aggressive and at least more creative with their pass rush plan when they do blitz. Because I anticipate them blitzing more. I just don't know how much more. We are going to talk about what this game does for Florida long-term when we get back with Locked On Gators. It is almost the weekend, right? It's time to look back and crown this week's MVP on who delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash streaks, saving more time every time you order. These players delivered when it mattered most. So we're going to break it down for a second. I'm not picking Florida this week. Okay. I just want to throw that out there. I'm not picking Florida this week. I'm picking someone that I have doubted very frequently, and that's why I'm picking him, because I've doubted him, is LSU quarterback Garrett Nussmeier. And I'm not going to say that he's amazing. I'm not walking back anything I've said about him, but he did some things that were just masterful. There was the clip going around of where they run the motion, Clemson's defense adjusts, Garrett shifts someone, Clemson's defense adjusts, and you kind of know this is who's blitzing because of that. Garrett looks the running back, tells the running back what to do, and picks up the blitz. Like you completely deconstructed what Clemson's defense was doing there. And it was a great job. Like there's just no other way to put it other than that was a hell of a job. And so we will give him credit for that. And so just like Garrett Nussmeier delivered for LSU, DoorDash delivers for your Saturdays. With DoorDash Streaks, you save every Saturday that you order. So you can stack it up all season and you can save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period is through November 18th. Thanks again for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. Every day we are available daily and free, wherever it's in the podcast and on YouTube. And I think that the parallels between Tennessee and USF actually give Florida a very big advantage in this game, but also give them a big advantage in terms of preparing for the game against Tennessee late in the season, as opposed to the usual early in the season, where again, these offenses, as in USF and Tennessee, are very stylistically similar. That means that generally, hey, what we see from USF, we're going to see a lot of what we see from USF. We're going to see that against Tennessee, but we're going to see basically USF is a worse version there. I do think quarterback's a big difference that you'll see between USF this year and Tennessee this year in terms of, I guess, I don't want to say what they're limited to, but what their tendencies are there, because Byron Brown, of course, more mobile than Joey Aguilar, who is still mobile, but Byron Brown is more mobile. Byron Brown is known as, hey, this guy's a dual threat, but more runner in terms of what he's exceptional at. It's running there, whereas Joey Aguilar, known as a passer that can move. And I think that those are two very distinct things. But I think that those two offenses generally being stylistically similar is a big advantage for Florida. Going into this game against USF, you generally know what you're going to get from USF because you play Tennessee. You've faced Alex Golesh as an OC before. Like you've gone through these things. You've dealt with this before. And so you know generally what you're going to get from USF. You know that you have generally really handled Tennessee's offense before. Outside of 2022, Florida's done a pretty damn good job of dealing with Tennessee's offense that has been putting up tons of points on everyone. And then Florida holds them usually to below their average. And so I think that when you look at that, you're going to see, okay, well, Florida should be able to handle it. I think this is a great test for every nose tackle on the roster. I was going to say Jamari Lyons, but for every nose tackle on the roster, this is a great test. This is a great test for someone like Cormani McClain, who Billy Napier mentioned before fall camp, or at the beginning of fall camp, maybe, that he's like, hey, you know what? Cormani's looking good. He's got to improve on his communication. This is a game where you need to communicate, because when they run the switch verticals, you need to communicate where you're going, and you need to be receptive to whoever is communicating things to you of what's happening there. And so big game for guys like Cormani, big game for someone like Jaden Robinson, who playing Mike against this kind of defense is not, against this kind of offense is not an easy thing to do. It's really not, because you've got to worry about the tight end, you've got to worry about the running back, and you've got to worry about them actually running the football. So you got to worry about multiple things in the passing game, quarterback moving around, motions could take you out. Where against Tennessee, Florida has often seen running back motion out into the, I don't want to say into the slot technically, but running back motioning out to the stacked receivers and motioning out and just getting into these weird formations. And as the safeties, you got to be communicative. You've got to be prepared to deal with whatever the hell they're going to throw at you, because again, they're going to get weird. That's what they do. They get weird. That's how they win games. Or that's how they create explosive plays. They get weird. You don't know how to defend it because you're not used to seeing it. It's like defending a triple option team. Obviously, neither USF nor Tennessee are triple option teams, but think back to even the Nick Saban days. I don't know if it was like 2018-ish, when the Citadel faced Alabama, and at halftime it was a really close game, and people are like, "Oh, they could be doing it." And it's like, well, yeah, Citadel was working offensively because teams in the SEC, they don't see the triple option. That was one of the things that Ron Cooper, the head coach at Long Island, was talking about going into the game last week was, while they don't defend the read option, teams don't generally prepare to defend the triple option. Sorry. Teams don't generally prepare to defend the triple option. And so we're going to run it a bit. And while they're not prepared for it, we're going to try to create some explosive plays there. And so that's what they try to do. They try to give you these unique looks and these unique plays to create explosive plays because you're not used to defending them. You're not used to seeing them. Florida's done a great job defending them. Last year, you got lucky that Nico Iamaleava sucks because, I mean, if he connected on some of the passes that he attempted, could have been a way worse game for Florida. But I think that when you look at this, playing Tennessee for years, as in for Billy Napier, this being his 4th year, so he's played Tennessee 3 times. And Ron Roberts was here last year, so this is the first time Florida's going to have a DC back for this matchup. But playing Tennessee for years has helped Billy Napier prepare for a game like South Florida, which you still have to prepare for. I don't care that they're a group of 5 opponent. You still have to prepare for them. I was at Toledo when they beat Iowa State in double overtime. I was at that game. I was front row. I stormed the field with them. Don't overlook anybody. I was not at the game because it was an away game, but I was on campus for Toledo upsetting number 16 Arkansas at Arkansas. You never overlook an opponent. Florida lost to Arkansas a couple years ago when Arkansas was like 2-7, 2-8 at the time. Overlooked them. You don't overlook these teams, right? And so facing Tennessee for years has helped Florida prepare for South Florida. And facing South Florida this weekend will help Florida prepare more for Tennessee, right? You'll see other wrinkles and other layers to the Tennessee offense that you won't see against Tennessee, but that's some things you might see, especially with Joey Aguilar at quarterback now. So you'll see things that you'll recognize and be able to attack. And by the way, Tennessee will also watch this game and say, this is how they defended this. This is how we're going to attack it to defend that or to attack that. But so I think that when you look at this game, there's a lot of value in this game, actually, because it's not just like Long Island. There was value in the game with certain reps. Here, there's value in the game with preparing for a rival that you're going to face later in the season, which could be a very meaningful game for both sides, really. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free, whether it's in the podcast and on YouTube. We will be back tomorrow. Talk more Florida Gators football for Locked On Gators. I'm Brandon Olsen. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with New York Giants on SI and swampsignal.substack.com. I will see you all next time.